The DOM, or the Document Object Model, allows you to select and manipulate elements inside of your HTML document. So today, we're going to take a look at what exactly the DOM is and how we can select elements from the HTML document. So first of all, what exactly is the DOM? Well, the DOM is a tree-like structure that holds the content and the structure of your web application, and each HTML element on your web page represents a different node on the DOM. From the root node, or the HTML element, all the way down to each individual text node, the DOM holds the content and the structure of everything inside of your web application, and then it tells the browser where everything is supposed to go and how everything is supposed to be laid out. Well, hold on here just a second. What exactly is a node? Well, a node is a representation of an element or text inside of your document, and each one of these nodes represents one individual item inside of your document. So you have the root node, which is the HTML element, and everything in between that and each individual piece of text has its own node, and each one of these nodes represents a part of the whole DOM. So if you were to visualize this as a tree, your DOM itself would be the tree itself, and then each individual node would be a branch or a leaf coming off of that tree. So that's enough chit chat. Let's go ahead and get into this and see exactly how we can manipulate the DOM. So over here I've got an HTML document that's got a div tag with an ID of div inside of it, and then inside of that I've got a p tag with a class of text, and then I've got some text inside of that p tag. So let's go ahead and select this div right here. So to do that, we are first going to say document. And this document is the overall document for the web application. And then we're going to say document dot getElementById, and we're going to put open and closing parentheses after that. This is what's considered a method, and this method is going to take in a parameter, and this parameter is going to be the ID that we want to select from the document. So over here we've got this ID of div. So let's go ahead and pass in the div ID, and we're just going to go ahead and save that into a variable called div. And let's go ahead and just console.log that div element. And if we save that, we'll go over here and inspect. Let me pull in our inspector menu, and you can see that I've now got this div inside of our console. This is how we can select elements based on ID, and it just selected this one element because remember, we can only have one ID per HTML page. So it just went ahead and grabbed this one element, and then we just logged it to the console. And this is just one of many ways that we can select elements from the DOM. So let's now go ahead and select this p tag using this class of text. So let's go ahead and comment out this code here, and we're going to say p, const p, is equal to document dot get element by class name. And then remember, we can have multiple classes on multiple HTML elements. So this is going to return something a little bit differently than what we got here. So whenever we pass in the class name, let's say we want to pass in that text class name, and let's go ahead and console.log that p variable. Now if we save that, you're going to see we get an HTML collection. Now what exactly is this? Well, an HTML collection is an array-like structure that holds all of the HTML elements that you originally selected. So there's only one, but there could be multiple inside of here. So if we wanted to just select the individual element, just say this p tag here, since this is the only one, we could grab the index at 0, and if we save that, now we get that p tag with the class of text, and then the text that is inside of it. And this is a common pattern, especially if you have multiple elements that you want to select and manipulate in the exact same way. So if we had multiple of these p tags here, let's just go ahead and add another one here real quick. And if we actually get rid of this index here real quick, you can see we've got an HTML collection with 2 elements inside of it now. And we can actually access each one of those individually. So we can say p index 0 and we can say p index of 1. And if we save that, we're now going to get each one of those individual p tags logged out to the console. Now we can also select elements by their tag name. So let's go ahead and comment this out here. And let's go ahead and select this div tag using the div tag name. So we can say const tag is equal to document.getElementByTagName. And if we pass in the tag name here, it's going to give us another HTML collection of all of the different div tags, or whatever tag we pass in. It's going to give us all of the different elements with that specific tag in the order that it was found. So we got all of the different tags here we could select from, and let's just go ahead and select the div, and let's go ahead and just console.log this tag here. And if we save that, again, you can see we've got an HTML collection. At index 0, we've got that div with the ID of div. Now we can also select both of those p tags just by passing in the p tag selector. And if we save that, now we've got an HTML collection of length 2 with both of those individual tags inside of that HTML collection. Now you can also select elements by their name attribute. And if you don't know what an HTML name attribute is, all it is an attribute that you can add to an HTML tag called name, and you can give it whatever name that you want. This is generally used for like routing things or backend stuff, but you can also select it inside of your document. So let's go ahead and say const named tag is equal to document.getElementByName. And then we can pass in the name of the named element, so we could say text, that's the name that I gave to it, and then we could just console.log named tag. And if we save that, we're going to get what's called a node list, and it's very similar to a HTML collection. It's just a collection of all of the different tags that have that name attribute. Now there are 2 more ways that we can select elements from the DOM, and both of these ways are a lot more versatile than the ones we've seen already. So let's go ahead and comment this out here, and let's go ahead down here and we're going to say document.querySelector. Now querySelector, what it does is it takes in a query. This query can be anything from a tag name to a class to an ID. It can basically find just about anything that we've found already. But the query selector can only return the first instance of what it finds. So if you've got a query for a div tag and you've got 10 different div tags in your document, it's only going to return the first instance of that div tag. So let's go ahead and just find the div tag, and let's just go ahead and save this to a constant called element, and let's go ahead and console.log that element. And if we save that, you can see that it returns that first instance of that div tag that we searched for. Now we can also search for classes, IDs, and everything else. So the way that we can search for classes, we can put a period before the class name. This tells it that we are searching for a class. So if we search for the text class and we save that, you can see that it returns that p tag with the class of text, and this is just the very first instance of that value. And we can also search for IDs as well. So if we search for the ID of div that we still have on our HTML div tag, we can see that it's found the very first instance of the ID with div on it. And this is a very versatile tool, and it's probably one of my favorites. I much prefer the query selector over most of the other ones just because of how versatile it is, and it can make your code look a lot cleaner just having the same type of selector. Now there's another type of query selector that we can use called the query selector all. And what this does is it's going to return every instance of the query that it finds. So unlike the last one, we don't have the single limitation like we did before. So we can search for all of the p tags, and if we save that, we are going to get a node list of all of the different p tags inside of the document. And we can also search for, again, classes, so we can search for the text class, and again, it's of course going to give us a node list of all of the things that match that query. So you can see we've just got this one now that has the class of text, and then we can also search for IDs as well. So we can search for the ID of div, and it's again going to give us a node list of all of the different elements that match that query. And that is about it for selecting elements from the DOM. Now if you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comments section down below. I'll answer any questions that you have. If you did like the video, make sure you slap a like on it. Check out the full playlist, link is right next to me. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.